Light, camera, action. Welcome to At the Movies, your one-stop source for all of the latest information on all of the upcoming movies coming out to a theater near you. I am the Tominator, the only man who has seen John Wick 3 more than 5 times, alongside my co-host, community leader, and the Yak Attack Jacob Bard. Jacob, how are we doing today?
We are doing more than just fine. This is going to be a great afternoon, evening tonight, because we are going to dive right into everything that makes us feel good, everything that makes us feel right about movies.
Good to be with you. Looking forward to doing this as a monthly podcast on all of the latest information on all of the upcoming movies coming out to a theater near you. We have a lot to talk about. There's a lot of movies out there that have been out for a while. We've sort of been able to them and sort of get a sense of what we like, what we don't like. And there's also a lot of movies coming out here as we have a big July 4th week with a number of films that we've sort of been talking about in our production meeting here of some of the movies that we're going to see. We're also going to talk about kind of the movie experience, how it's changed over the past few years, which we both think is for the better. We're going to talk about, different theaters that we go to. We're going to talk about, some of the theaters that we recommend you go to, and also sort of the different plans out there. There's a big movie plan that I think that a lot of our listeners can really take advantage of that helps you go to all the different types of movies that are coming out to a theater near you. And I think it'll be a very interesting experience. So my friend, Mr. Bard, what's on your mind? I know you're a big movie buff, and I know that you see a lot of movies regularly. I know this has been something that you've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm certainly happy to do that with you. And what's on your mind? What movies have you seen recently?
Well, I have seen, which one should I start? I see movies on average once or twice a week. Trying to think what's the first movie. How about let's start with Toy Story 4, because that's been getting some rave reviews, and it didn't disappoint at all. It was a continuation of the franchise. That introduced us to Woody and to Buzz, and it was you seen the movie as well?
Yep, I saw the movie Toy Story 4 a few days ago, and I have a lot to talk about with that, but obviously let's get your thoughts on it. I have to say, it was a movie that I didn't expect, at least from my end, that I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did, but certainly I know it was a movie that a lot of kids and parents went to, at least from what I saw when I went to my AMC theater, but I know that you saw it earlier than I did, so tell us, for our listeners, what your thoughts were on the movie.
So, if you like the first 3 movies, and the last movie was when Andy goes to college and gives all his, and they're all worried about what their fate is going to be like as toys, and then they end up at Bonnie, his younger sister, and so now Bonnie goes to the kindergarten, and she's not doing well at kindergarten, but then she makes takes a Forky and makes it and turns it into a Sporky, and then all of a sudden this becomes the most important toy for Bonnie, and Woody as the good-natured toy, Sheriff Woody,
which is voiced by Tom Hanks, by the way, for our
listeners. The great Tom Hanks, but Forky isn't really interested in being a toy.
Well, Forky keeps referring to himself as trash, and early in the movie, we see Woody constantly trying to rescue Forky, and that's kind of how we segue into this sort of relationship between Woody and Forky.
Yes. And then this movie has a lot of new characters as well, which have really they really up their game with this. They had Keanu Reeves.
Well, that was the big one for me. I have to say, Duke Kaboom. Certainly, Duke Kaboom. You can definitely argue might have stole the show in the movie. There's no question that Duke Kaboom played a big role in the movie. Sort of comes in here at the second half of the movie, which Duke Kaboom is kind of introduced from us by a returning character in the movie. So tell us about that returning character in Toy Story 4.
Oh yeah, and not just him. They had what's it called? Jordan Peele and Key from the Jordan Key Show playing their character as the stuffed animals. They
sort of segue into a storyline with Buzz Lightyear. You know, Buzz and them. You know how they get into the carnival there.
Yeah, and unlike
you got it.
Sorry, but unlike previous movies where there was a big chemistry between Woody and Buzz Lightyear, there wasn't so much between the two.
Well, they kind of segued off. You know, there was a separation between them. You know, like if you saw the first movie, the first Toy Story, which I actually did see in the movie theaters, I remember when it came out, and then, you know, to where we are, you know, 24 years later, you know, in Toy Story 4, the storyline kind of dives off into, you know, Bo's comeback and sort of Bo and Woody sort of, you know, kind of in that awkward moments with their relationship that was, and, you know, that kind of dominates the second half of the movie.
You're talking about Bo Peep, right?
Yep.
So there was the film focused more on Woody and Bo Peep, but I have to say, you know, beginning I wasn't sure where this was going to go with it, but it ended up delivering, and it was quite rewarding.
What did you think of the two sort of main villains in the movie, more or less? There was sort of those two villains in the antique shop. What was your whole thoughts on the, you know, antique shop situation in the carnival?
I'll tell you the truth.
That's what you're supposed to do here. Tell us the truth. You're right at the movies. You're supposed to be telling our listeners the truth there.
Only the truth. Now, it was okay. It was, it's not, the Toy Story franchise has had better villains than this villain, but it was pretty good villain. And you know, and the motivation of that villain was driven by a desire to be loved and wanted. I don't want to give away everything.
Yeah, let's not give away the movie for our listeners, but certainly preview, because with July 4th week coming up, obviously Toy Story 4 is still, you know, in your theaters at a theater near you, and certainly I think a lot of our listeners might want to go out and check out Toy Story 4. So for you, very briefly, sort of in a short, you know, sentence or two, why should our listeners go to see Toy Story 4?
Because it is a continuation of a excellent, fabulous franchise, and if you got kids, you got nephews and nieces, they're gonna love it, and you're gonna love it. It's one of these movies where adults and kids alike will enjoy.
You know, I was surprised because usually I'm not a big, like, you know, animated kind of family friendly type of, you know, movie. We'll talk about a movie that's a big contrast to that later on here on our show at the movies that Mr. Reeves was certainly a part of, and we'll dive into that later on. But I was surprised, you know, Yak, that there was so many different types of, you know, demographics at Toy Story 4, at least when I went. You had, yes, your kid. You had your parents. But you also had your adult. You had people more our age, sort of mid-20s to say mid-30s, who were, you know, kind of going with their friends, and it was sort of, you know, maybe date night or hangout night. And it was it cut sort of, you know, along different types of demographics. And that's what shows you why a movie can be very good and why the movie experience is really a worthwhile one. And, you know, I've seen some movies, which I'm sure you have seen here, you know, recently, you know, in the past few months, and a lot of movies don't have that type of, you know, ability to cut across different types of demographics and genders, and, you know, and Toy Story 4 certainly has something for everyone, at least for me. And I'm going to tell you right now, and also for all of our listeners here at the movies, I am definitely going to see it this week and maybe even another time after that. I really enjoyed the movie. What I liked about it most was that it was kind of a short movie, but it was short, but you still wanted to keep watching, where, in other words, it wasn't
you wanted more.
There was storylines where it didn't make sense. Right. It was a movie that, you know, it was short, but it made sense, and it was short to the point. Sometimes you go to movies and they're going to go on, and we'll talk about a few of those that we thought that might have been short, but they were kind of awkward in terms of their endings. This one here at the movies, to me, if I were to do a rating system out of 5 stars, I would give Toy Story 4 probably 4 to 4.5 stars.
That's fair.
What about you? What would you give it out of 5 stars?
I would give it a 4-star for sure.
And have you seen it once? Are you planning to see it again, or what's your feelings on that?
No, I think I've got everything I needed out of that film. I mean,
and are you a guy also that likes to go to see a movie more than once? Or are you a guy that just needs to see it once and you're good to go? What's the movie experience like for the Yak Attack?
It depends, because, for example, a movie like like Avengers Endgame, I had to see more than once because it was just so long and so awesome, and and every time I saw it, I picked up on new things that I might have missed or might have seen the first time and forgot about. I usually am not one of these people who see movies more than once because I kind of replay the movie in my head. I use my imagination, and so I kind of once I see it once, I have it fully processed.
Okay, well, let me ask you a follow-up question to that. Are you someone that sees the movie again when it comes out, like on Blu-ray or DVD or at home or cable? Anything like that?
Yeah. I've watched pretty much all the Marvel movies on Netflix or whatever.
I know TNT plays a lot of these, movies after they kind of end their first run at the box office and then translate into DVD.
Yeah, it has to be the right night for it, though. Not every night is a good night to watch stuff you've seen in the past.
When is your favorite time to go to the movies? Like, what is a day and time that we can see a Yak Attack, coming to a theater near you?
Oh boy, I gotta be prepared for this because one day when I'll be that famous, I can't really give out all my.
Well, I think you're gonna be famous already after our listeners hear you at the movies.
Yeah, so I usually go in the evening. Because it just works out better that way.
Are you a last showing guy? Because I know that there's a lot of people out there that like to go to that last showing for a movie, kind of like you're anywhere between a 9:20 and a 10:45 time, depending on your theater.
So I do often go like 9 and 10 o'clock. It all depends on what you have to remember. A lot of these movies, they get filled up really, really quick. So I sometimes don't have a choice. I have to go see it, 9, 10 o'clock because the more conventional 7, 6, or 8 o'clock, which is my traditional and preferred showtime, that gets filled up really quick, especially when you talk about Marvel movies and DC movies. So a lot of times, more often than not, I have no choice. I have to go for that late showing because still got some seats going over there.
What's the theater like going at, say, a 9:20 or a 10:40? And I think AMC Empire on 42nd Street plays a movie up to like 11:15 or 11:10. Or I know my home theater, which is 890 Broadway, the AMC there, they usually have their last showing anywhere between 10:40 and 11 o'clock, depending on if it's a 3D movie or a regular digital movie.
Well, the truth is, the beauty of these late showings, unless you're talking about on a weekend, on a regular day like a Monday, Tuesday, these show times are great because there are no long lines for the concession stands.
Are you a big concession guy?
I gotta drink during the movie because
you like the freestyle Coke?
What I do is, you're gonna laugh. I take the Powerade.
You of all people, the Yak Attack with a Powerade.
Yeah, I knew you didn't expect that to come.
Well, that's why we're here having you as a co-host for At the Movies with me, my man.
Yep, that's me.
And for our listeners, do you like the 3D or do you like the digital?
It's interesting because when 3D came around, I was like, yeah, 3D, it's great. For whatever reason, most movies are just wasting their time with 3D because they don't produce any content that's 3D, that were warned 3D. You know what I mean? There are movies that.
There's a few I've seen recently in 3D that we're definitely going to get into here in a few minutes.
It's like what's the point? There's some crazy scenes that I would agree you need 3D for, but some movies they're just the content that provide are so mundane and simple and plain that what are you doing with 3D? You're not showing me anything remarkable that I need to see I need the 3D glasses for.
Okay, let me ask you this follow-up question. When you saw Toy Story 4, did you see it in 3D or did you see it in regular digital?
I think I saw a regular digital with recliner seats.
So did I. Now, what I want to do now is I want to see it in 3D and sort of compare the experience between 3D and digital, which leads me to my next question to you. Is there a difference for you in the overall movie when you see a movie in digital or see it in 3D? The same movie.
Again, like I said before, it depends on the movie. Some movies warrant 3D, and other movies are just wasting their time with 3D, and because they have nothing to sell, really, when it comes to 3D. I'm trying to think of an example of a movie that really, really utilized 3D to its fullest and had a big impact on the viewer.
Well, for me, I have one that stands out, and I don't know if you've seen it yet, which I want to go into this next week, which I know this movie has been a very polarizing movie, but for me, I actually liked it, and that's Men in Black International. Men in Black International, I saw in 3D, and I saw that at my home theater, which is AMC 890 Broadway, which is on 19th Street and Broadway in Lower Manhattan, for our listeners who are maybe looking to check out that theater. And I like that theater because it's kind of an off-the-beat type of location, but it's not as crowded as, let's say, a AMC Empire or an AMC Times Square movie theater, where you're going to have 3 or 4 floors, and it's kind of your big kind of suburban like movie house and a big, huge mecca of, tourists and everybody else in Manhattan. And you go there and you have 2 floors and one of them's a downstairs, and you can pretty much go in there. And even on a weekend, it's a movie house that's generally not that crowded. So if you really want to sit down and look at the movie and sort of watch it and observe it, not worry about, people and a big crowd and feeling kind of like that stuffy environment, I would highly recommend this, theater. It doesn't have sort of the, accessories that, let's say, maybe your theater's on 34th or 42nd Street, or the one in Staten Island that just, came out, 2655 Richmond Avenue in the Staten Island Mall. But I really like it a lot, and I enjoy it. For me, getting back Men in Black International. Okay, so for me with Men in Black International, I really liked the movie, and I really felt that the experience really made the movie because of the action and sort of the different elements of the movie, where they were in London and had the different zombies, and then you had Liam Nielsen's character, you had Chris Helmsworth and Tessa Thompson, and sort of their interaction and the weaponry. If you're a Men in Black fan, I really think you'd like the movie once you get over the fact that Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones aren't in the movie. Not spoiling the movie in terms of the overall storyline. Tessa Thompson had always wanted to be an agent, and she had a situation when she was growing up where there was your typical zombie or typical alien-like character in the movie that was sort of a friend of hers, and she's visited by your agents, and they sort of want to come in and investigate her her house because they know that she has something in her closet that she's friendly with, and that character winds up going away, and Tessa Thompson eventually works to finding her way to becoming an MIB agent, and toward the end of the movie, this is where we see that character coming into play. So from that perspective, I really liked the movie. Yes, it didn't have storyline, wasn't the greatest storyline, but if you liked Men in Black, I think you would like the movie. Now, for you, Yak Attack, were you a fan of the original MIB movies? When it comes to Agent H and M, Agent H was Chris Helmsworth, who you might know from a number of different movies, an Australian actor, and Tessa Thompson was Agent M, and she was in Creed 2. I don't know if you saw Creed 2.
Oh, yeah.
She was Apollo Creed's wife in the movie, Apollo's son in the movie for that, but that's who the main characters are in the movie. And Liam Nielsen is High T. We do have one character in the movie that was in some of the Men in Black movies, and that's Emma Thompson. She was Agent O. You might remember Men in Black.
Yeah.
You might remember her from some of those movies. But tell us, for our listeners, what you thought of the movie. If you saw it, if you didn't, did you like the Men in Black movies? What was your feelings?
So I am a huge fan of Men in Black. Something, you brought up a good point. You said if you can get over the fact that Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones are not in the movie, then you can enjoy that movie. Something, I'm starting to rethink my position on Men in Black International, and I think I'm going to give it a shot this week. I think we're going to.
That's all we do here at the movies. That's what we do.
When I watched the trailer, it looked a little cheesy to me, and I think being that Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones are not in the movie, kind of fomented my decision not to watch it. But you said you had a pretty good time with that, so
I enjoyed it a lot. It's not the shortest movie, it's not the longest movie in the world, but it's sort of just right. It's about 2 hours long. So once you take away your usual 15 and 20 minutes of upcoming trailers, it's about 2 hours long. And I felt that there was a lot of action in the movie. I really liked the ending of the movie, not to give the ending away, but it's definitely an unexpected type of ending. It's, if you watch the movie and sort of how the characters relate to one another, H and O kind of have this father-son type of relationship. And that's kind of where the movie veers off toward the end of the movie, which kind of gives you this kind of, turn, unexpected turn. But it makes sense, when it comes to it. But it's kind of comedic, the relationships between, H and M in the movie, because H is kind of this hotshot agent, and he's supposed to be like the greatest agent of, MIB history, and, he saved the world. And then, you kind of have this setting, what happened in London, and not to give it away, but, H gets into a whole, he's your typical kind of tough guy actor, but he's got a little bit of sense of, funniness to him, realty.
Yeah, he's a great actor. Yeah, I mean, the truth is, the more I think of it, is it Chris Hemsworth or Liam Hemsworth? Because I know they're brothers. I'm not sure. Is it Liam Hemsworth?
So they are brothers, and thanks to the crack staff for pulling this up. It is Chris Hemsworth. I was correct. So it was Chris Hemsworth. Thanks to the crack staff for pulling that up for him.
Right, because Liam Hemsworth is Thor. Now,
yes.
Chris Hemsworth is his younger brother, and he's also equally talented. And he's no Will Smith, but he is good at what he does.
And let's just say this: Will Smith. We're both pretty much in the same kind of age demographic. Will Smith is one of the biggest box office actors or draws of our time. Going back, we have Independence Day coming up. His career really took off with Bad Boys and Independence Day, and he became, arguably the biggest box office draw of our generation. So nobody's going to be Will Smith. I mean, Will Smith has been in so many, iconic roles that, that's like, trying to fill Michael Jordan's shoes, in basketball. You're not going to fill Will Smith's shoes, but I think Chris Hemsworth did a really good job in the movie. I liked it a lot. I didn't feel bored, and I would recommend. It's not the greatest movie in the world. It's not going to win an Oscar. It's not going to, win, awards, Golden Globe awards. But if you want some fun, you're bored, and you have a couple of hours, and you want to see a movie, I would really recommend it. And it's still playing in a lot of the AMC theaters or Regal theaters if you go to those as well, or your independent theaters, and I would recommend it. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I know that you didn't see it, and I would recommend you see it.
I'm going to see it.
So what other movies have you seen? I know you mentioned earlier Avengers, and that's a movie that I've wanted to see, but I haven't seen it. So tell our listeners why you think Avengers is a good movie, and what's some of the big storylines in that movie that our listeners can look forward to. It is a 3 hour and 2 minutes movie according to AMC previews for it.
Well, it was 3 hours because there was a lot of ground to cover. I have a friend that's a hardcore Marvel fan that he felt that it should be even longer because
really, wow,
because he is like, well, they didn't cover all the other stuff.
They might as well have 2 movies there.
Well, yeah, but I think it was a great closing for something they've been building up for so long, and this was the perfect way to close that movie and that whole franchise. And now they're gonna focus on other stuff, on other storylines. But basically, that movie begins after Thanos gets all the Infinity Stones, and snap. I mean, I guess at this point, I'm not giving anything away that nobody knows, because it's been 2 years since that movie. So Thanos snaps his fingers and basically gets what he always wanted. It was to get rid of half the world. And he does that, and a bunch of our favorite superheroes die along they just disappear. And so the second movie begins with them dealing with that kind of world, and all of a sudden, they, not to give away everything, then maybe they can go back in time and get the stones and basically correct what Thanos has done. And that's basically where the movie takes us. So anyone who has seen all the other Marvel movies, you can still see the movies in theaters.
Now let me ask you this question: If you didn't see any of the Avengers movies, is this a movie that you still can get into, even though you're not familiar with some of the prior, Marvel movies related to the storyline?
You would have to at least have some sort of crash course of some sort before going in, because honestly, if you haven't seen any of the movies and you just watched it, if you're living under a rock and you start watching,
or they can call you and ask for the brief synopsis.
Please don't call me.
So at 5 stars, what would you give Avengers? If we're doing the 5-star rating system, which we're doing here at the movies for each of our shows, what would you give Avengers out of 5?
6 out of 5.
Well, that shows you that this might have been your movie of the year. I think we kind of have an idea of where you were going with it. So I have not seen Avengers, and it's a movie that I've considered seeing, and I think after hearing your review, July 4th looks like a great day to go to some movies, and nothing's going on, and while everybody's having barbecues and shooting fireworks, it might be time to see if Avengers is playing at an AMC or a Regal or any other theater near you, and check it out. And also going back to our 5-star rating system, when it came to Men in Black International, I want to give it 3 stars. I want to give it 3 stars because
that's decent.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest movie. It wasn't the worst movie. I think it's just in between, slightly better than average, but in all intents and purposes, it's an average type of movie. It's not groundbreaking, but it's fun. It's family friendly, but still has a lot of action in it. If you're an action fan, you'll like it. If you're a kid, you'll like it. If you're a parent, anybody else in between, I think you'll like it. And I hope anybody who listens to this sees it. Let the Tominator know about it, what they think about Men in Black 3. But another movie that we were talking about in our production meeting, I know that we both had mixed reviews on and really weren't the biggest fans of, was Dark Phoenix, which has got a lot of fanfare, and I don't know if it's met the fanfare and hype. But for you, what was your thoughts on Dark Phoenix?
Well, Dark Phoenix did not do that well at the box office.
No, it did not. Certainly, if you're looking at box office figures, at least domestically, it was not the movie that I'm sure that the theaters were hoping for in terms of box office receipts. Thanks to the crack staff for pulling this up. Dark Phoenix this week was 13th in the box office. They drew 1.6. They were 13th. They drew $1.692 million in ticket receipts. It dropped 52% from its last week. In fact, it's only playing in 1,187 theaters right now, and it's raised so far its total gross is just under $64 million in 4 weeks domestically, and it has raised. Let's see the exact figures. Thanks to the crack staff for pulling this up. It's definitely going to be not as good as what I think we were all hoping for 20th Century Fox, which was the maker of the movie. It was $245 million so far. So Well, I'm sure they probably made their money back, overall. Certainly domestically, it did not do as well. And also, for those, scoring at home, Men in Black International was number 6 at the box office this week. It raised $6.5 million in ticket receipts, still playing in 3,600 theaters, and it's raised about the same amount of money as Dark Phoenix. It's $65 million. Their budget was $110 million, and they've done $219 million. So you look at it, and you say, Men in Black and Dark Phoenix might have gotten the same reviews from critics, and they're raising about the same amount of money. So clearly, in terms of the box office receipts, it's not doing as well as they'd hoped. Toy Story 4 has already raised close to $500 million, and it's been out 2 weeks. So that shows you that people like that movie. And let's talk a little bit more about Dark Phoenix. I know you had some thoughts on that.
Well, let me tell you something. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. Maybe it was a certain night, my certain mood of mine that night, but it takes a lot to get me to fall asleep in the middle of a movie.
Knowing the Yak Attack, it takes a lot for the Yak Attack to fall asleep altogether.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe because I didn't sleep that I was on a Saturday night and I didn't really sleep that I don't know, but the point, but
boy, you're slobbering over yourself just thinking about this, huh?
I just there were some great moments in that film, but then there was some very boring, stretched out storylines that really there
were some surprises too in the movie, not giving it away, but I think if you're a Raven fan, you would have been very surprised about what happened in this movie.
That is true. And what's it called? And I kind of echo your Friday co-host. It's not the saga
yes, that's
that I'm really.
Multi-sport PSAL champion Rob Hines on New York's #1 sports podcast, The Sports Report with Tom and Rob.
So I wasn't even planning to see that movie. It's just a friend of mine asked me want to come along and watch the movie. So yes, I do that. I'm that kind of friend that tags along on movie nights with people that want to because they don't want to see it themselves.
Do you watch movies before we get back to Dark Phoenix? Do you watch movies with friends or do you do it by yourself?
Usually it's by myself. I'm kind of a loner, but sometimes
I have to say so am I when it comes to watching movies, because what I like to do is I like to sort of be able to play the movie out in my mind and sort of sit there kind of like watching a hockey game almost, which I know you've watched with me a number of times, which is a New York Islanders game. I need to be able to dissect the movie, sort of process it and sort of think about it in my head and kind of follow along the storyline. I mean, I know movies are kind of the quintessential date night, but for me, I would say most of the time I like to watch a movie, by myself.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you the truth. I like it.
That's what you're supposed to do here. You're supposed to tell the truth, buddy, when you're at the movies.
Yes. So I kind of like both watching with friends and watching alone. And it really depends on my mood. And also, sometimes if a friend reaches out to me, hey, I want to watch the Avengers movies. For example, I watched this 3 times. The third time was really just because a friend of mine was like, look, most of my friends don't like these kind of movies, so okay. I know you like these kind of movies, so
yeah, so I do actually. I'm an action adventure guy, so yes.
So would you want to watch that movie with me? And I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. I almost feel bad for the guys. I mean, and so that's what happened with Dark Phoenix. I didn't plan on watching it, but a friend of mine was like, it's Saturday night, and he's looking to watch a movie with somebody. So, and he was asking if I want to watch Dark Phoenix. I'm like, what the hell? Why not? I'm not doing anything. Who am I kidding? I'm not doing anything on a Saturday night. So we drove over to Sheepshead Bay, Regal, and watched it.
That's on Knapp Street. That's the big Sheepshead Bay Theater right behind the boats out there in that area. Nice.
Yes, correct. Where Hurricane Sandy did a nice job.
Sure. Very nice. We recommend to all of our listeners who live in the South Brooklyn area to check out the Regal Theater out in Sheepshead Bay. It used to be a UA theater, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they still have the UA name in it.
Okay. So Dark Phoenix. Getting back to Dark Phoenix. So you didn't like the movie, and you thought it was kind of boring. And
I was going into it. I was already expecting. I wasn't really expecting much out of it.
Did you like the main character Phoenix in the movie, who was played by Sophie Turner, who is married to a Jonas now, and we wish her a lot of congrats and luck with her marriage, and also she's famously in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, she was good. She was okay. Again, I kind of had the feeling that 20th Century Fox is they're kind of shutting the chapter down on all these. So
you don't feel like that we're going to see a follow-up to this movie then?
No, but absolutely not, because if you're following what's going on with Disney and 20th Century Fox, they're kind of shutting it all down.
So you liked how the movie ended? I think for me the strength of the movie was the middle of the movie, which is kind of where we see that whole Raven and Phoenix dialogue, and not giving that away in terms of Phoenix visiting, her parents, at least her father. In the movie, it sort of starts out where, Phoenix is in a car with her parents, and Phoenix sort of develops some of her powers, which we see later on in the movie, and that's kind of where we see her parents, in this big car crash, and Phoenix survives it, and she's, taken to the school with obviously, Professor Xavier, and then that's where, we see Raven and everybody else from the team come into the movie, and they're sort of the heroes, and then what happens with Phoenix later on is that they become the villains, and then that's where we see the movie develop, and not giving it away. There was action in the movie. If you were an action guy or an action gal, you would like parts of the movie, but it seemed like it was very uneven. It just seemed like you were kind of lost for parts of the movie. It was almost like you were waiting for the punchline, and the punchline never came.
Absolutely. Look, I'm not saying this movie didn't have its moments. It certainly did. There were certainly great moments in that movie, but other than that, it just felt so boring, and that's when I fell asleep.
So out of 5 stars, what would you give this movie?
I would give it a 2.
Okay, I would give it 2.5. I don't want to give it 1. I don't think it's 2. It's sort of in between. There is moments to the movie that you say you liked it, you had some fun. I think the weaponry and sort of, like the guns that you saw in the movie were very futuristic. And I have to say, I saw it in 3D, and it really, if I saw this movie in digital, I would probably, like you, give it 2 stars.
You would also fall asleep.
Because I saw it in 3D, it gave me another half star for my review.
If you didn't see it in 3D, you'd probably also fall asleep.
Well, that's why I saw it in 3D, and you didn't see. Did you see it in 3D? I don't think you did.
No, Sheepshead Bay, there is kind of, it's not the worst theater I've been to, but it's not as upgraded as other theaters are.
Oh, no question about it.
It's like a classic Brooklyn theater.
When I think of Brooklyn theaters, I think of the Alpine in Bay Ridge. I think of the theater in Cobble Hill, Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn. I'm sure you've been to that one.
Or, God forbid, the Ken Theater.
Oh, please! You had to bring up the Ken Theater. You had to bring that one up. I know King's Plaza. Remember King's Plaza having a movie theater?
I remember. Rest in peace.
Then we had the Fort Way. Remember the Fort Way? This was not too far from you, just outside of your neck of the woods in Borough Park. That was on 67th and Fort Hamilton Parkway.
Which is now a Chinese supermarket.
So if you want to go food shopping, certainly I recommend you going to a Great Wall Supermarket. But there's a lot of movie theaters that used to be in Brooklyn, but they are no longer. But the theater business, I think, is on the uptick. So which leads me to my next question. How are you seeing movies? Are you seeing it through any promotions of any sorts? Are you going to any particular company that does theaters? I know there's some different ways you can see movies and sort of get a little bit of a better bang for your buck. So how are you doing that these days?
So lately, I've mostly seen my movies through AMC because of the AMC Stubs program, the AMC A-list.
$23.95 a month.
Yeah. So it really, for someone that watches an average of 1 and sometimes even 2 movies a week, and on a rare occasion 3 movies a week.
Are you seeing 3 in one night? Or are you going different days?
Different days. I wouldn't. I can't. It's too much to process. It's too much to handle to watch.
Could you do a doubleheader?
I have in the past, but I can't do that anymore. It's just too much for me. But definitely 2 movies a week, like one movie Sunday, 1 movie Tuesday, and sometimes even 1 movie Thursday. And AMC A-List allows me to do that for $20 a month. I get to see up to 3 movies a week.
Yes, and I have the same plan as well, which you get to go 3 times.
I mean, if you are the kind of guy that only watches a movie a month or even less than a movie a month, like movie 3. No, it's just no point there. I mean, there's no point for that. But if you're someone that is an avid movie watcher and you want to get the most for your buck, $20 a month is the way to go. And then you just watch as many movies as you want, and it's just great. I haven't looked back since. The only reason I would go to Regal is if because it's the closest movie theater to where I live.
And what is the closest movie theater to your house?
So I think really the closest movie theater is Alpine.
That's in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's so one of the few independent operating movie theaters.
Yeah, the Alpine has been around, for decades and decades and decades. I can tell you that, my parents went there, their parents went there, a lot of my siblings went there, and one of our listeners, Joe Rosas, literally lives, within 60 feet of the Alpine, and the Alpine has kind of been the rite of passage. If you live like in Southwest Brooklyn, that has been your kind of home movie theater. So the Alpine for you is your home theater.
But I haven't been there in a while.
The last movie I saw at the Alpine was The Equalizer 2 last year, and that was with Denzel Washington. It was kind of one of those things where I really wanted to see the movie, and for me it was kind of like spur of the moment. And for me, the Alpine Theater is not my closest theater. It's sort of I'm in between. I have one that's an AMC by the Staten Island Mall, which is it's about the same distance from the Alpine to my house in the Staten Island Mall to Bay Ridge, or about the same distance. And there's a theater sort of right by the Goethals Bridge on the North Shore of Staten Island. So for me, that's probably my home theater. But in this particular case, I went to see it at the Alpine. I'm not the biggest fan of the Alpine in terms of its sort of amenities and concessions. It's definitely an old theater house. So if you're looking for the new theater experience, I would not recommend the Alpine. But if you're a movie fan, if you live, in Bay Ridge or Borough Park like you do, or Dyker Heights or Bensonhurst or Bath Beach or Sunset Park, that is your closest movie theater, if I'm not mistaken.
It is my closest, but I can't even remember the last time I went there.
That shows you they got some work to do, my friend.
I don't know. They're kind of I don't know how long they're going to last even. I mean, but
that's for another topic for another time.
I mean, I personally, my favorite movie theater to go to is AMC Village 7, which is on 2nd Avenue. I think East 11th. I'm just blanking.
So that is, it's near the Kips. It's in between my home theater, which is 890 Broadway, the Kips Bay movie theater, which is on 3rd Avenue, and the Village 7, which is, I believe, on 10th and 2nd.
Yes. So what I like about that movie theater is that every single movie, no matter what movie you order at that theater, every auditorium room is recliner seats. So
that's a big one. That's a big one because there are some theaters that don't give you the recliners.
And not just that, their recliner seats go all the way down, as opposed to a lot of theaters where it just goes like halfway down. And they have the best recliner seats. And it's not a busy theater.
That's exactly like my theater, which is the 890 Broadway AMC East 6th.
Does that also have recliner seats in every room?
It does. Well, it doesn't have reclining seats in every theater that auditorium you go to, but most of them have it.
I'll tell you the truth. Ever since recliner seats have been introduced, I can no longer. It's almost like once you go business class, you can never really go economy class anymore. It's just that kind of comparison. I think that kind of comparison is accurate, because you go back and then you watch a movie and you're stuck between two people, and you don't have the kind of leg room as like you have with recliner seats.
Okay, so we've kind of covered the whole movie experience, and certainly for our listeners who haven't, if they can, definitely sign up for the AMC Stubs Movie Pass. At is the A-list program, and for $23.95 a month, you can see 3 movies a week. And certainly, we recommend that here at the movies, and we hope to see everybody at the movies, whether it's at an AMC theater, the Alpine, or any other Regal Cineplex in a theater near you. But is there any other movies that we haven't covered that you've seen before we get to talk about the movie that I have seen, probably more than anybody, but is there anything else that you've seen that we should discuss?
I think I can think of one more, and that is the great movie Shaft.
Oh, let's talk about Shaft, because that's a movie that for the past couple of weeks I've wanted to see, and I've actually heard a lot of good reviews about it, but I haven't had the chance to see it, but I still might want to see it this week. So talk about Shaft. And I believe that is this a follow-up to the 2000 movie? So talk a little bit about this.
Yes, absolutely. It is a follow-up to 2000, and it introduces basically John Shaft is a badass mofo. I'm not sure how. I'm sure what I'm trying to keep it PG-13. So John Shaft is this private investigator and an all-time badass. The way he handles his business, and as you've seen in the film in 2000, and the 2000 film was based on the original Shaft, who now plays John Shaft's father. But we also get introduced to Samuel Jackson's son, John Shaft Jr. So it kind of pays homage to the original Shaft, and then the 2000 movie with Samuel L. Jackson as Shaft. So it does a good job with that. And so now we see 3 generations of Shaft basically solving crime and taking no prisoners. And what I liked about this Shaft is that it made no apologies for what it was. This is a guy, old school guy. He's not trained in the, sort of like liberal hipster kind of lifestyle. No, he just knows one thing. You break the guy's nose, you break the guy's leg, and that's how you get the answer. And
so it's an action movie that any action fan would like. And, when you talk about Samuel L. Jackson, this is the guy that's probably one of the best actors of our generation. You agree on that?
Of all time. This guy has character. A lot of actors are good actors, but they don't have, they don't have a character to them. In any role he's in, his character shines through. And if you like Samuel Jackson's character and in all of his roles, you're going to love Shaft, because his character gets dialed up to a 10, to an 11. So
this is a straightforward ass-kicking movie is what you're telling me.
Yes. And again, so John Shaft Jr., he grows up with his mother, and he's not like his father. He gets introduced to his father, and the contrast between these two becomes clear from the second they meet. And John and like John Shaft, you can't do this, you can't say that, and his father's like, what the hell are you talking about? And that kind of routine. And I know it's a routine that many people have seen before. The badass guy versus the guy that follows by the code and by the book, and that kind of relationship that plays out. I know you've seen that before, but trust me, this is a good, solid movie. You're going to enjoy this. You're going to love it, especially if you like politically incorrect humor, and you like to see a guy that isn't held by standards of the times, and he just has his own code, his own way of doing things. You're going to love this movie.
And John Shaft Sr. is played by Samuel L. Jackson, and his father is played by Richard Roundtree, who was the original Shaft.
Yes.
Some of our listeners who may or may not know that. And John Shaft III is played by Jesse Usher Jr.
Yes.
Who was an Independence Day resurgent, if those who may remember him in that movie. And Regina Hall is also in the movie. The lovely Regina Hall.
That plays John Shaft's ex-wife and John Shaft Jr.'s mother. She was the one who raised John Shaft Jr.
And we also have Method Man in the movie, if I'm not mistaken, the legendary rapper who was a member of the famous Wu-Tang Clan. He's in the movie as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Wait, I missed that.
He was in Shaft. He was in the movie, according to the crack staff, who was...
Maybe it was one of the gangsters in that movie. I don't remember.
He was Freddie P. You remember Freddie P in the movie?
Oh, Freddie P. All right. See, you know this film better than I do.
Well, that's why I'm going to have to see it and give a rating system. But for you, without giving the movie away, and certainly your 5-star rating system for the Yak Attack, out of 5 stars, what would you give Shaft?
4 3/4.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So you're saying that our listeners should go out and see Shaft in a theater near you?
Absolutely. You're in for a treat if you haven't. I mean, and based on what... I mean, you don't have to have seen the other movies. This just picks up right from where it is and just jump in and dive right into it. You'll have a good time.
So we're certainly going to try our best to see that here this week at the movies or for our next show in the next few weeks. But there's one more movie that I have been waiting to talk about for weeks and weeks and weeks.
We all been waiting for this.
I think the world is waiting to hear from this, and that is John Wick 3, Parabellum. Every action has consequences, and I think certainly I have lived those consequences not once, not twice, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 times. Ladies and gentlemen, I have seen John Wick 3, A Parabellum 6 times, and I plan on seeing it a 7th time this week at an AMC theater near you. It is certainly, for me, the movie of the year. I certainly think it's the action movie of the year, and I think John Wick does not disappoint. It is a movie that if you love John Wick 1 or 2, you're going to love this one. Even if you haven't seen both of them, which I definitely recommend. I know that one of our listeners had alerted me that there was a John Wick marathon on the Paramount channel earlier this past weekend here. So definitely, if you hadn't seen it, you had an opportunity to do it. But if you didn't see any of those movies, or if you did, John Wick 3 does not disappoint. So the main premise of this movie, I don't want to give it away because I could talk about this movie probably for an entire show or maybe even 2 shows. Yeah. They fight over the Continental, which was a big part of John Wick 2, and we sort of see, John Wick is back. He was in retirement for 5 years, and he's in New York again. He's actually in Times Square to start the movie, and it's raining out. And for those who have lived in the New York City area over the past couple of months, that's been, kind of a routine. It's rained at least some point of the day for a number of days. But the dog is back. We do have a dog in John Wick 3, and the bounty is on John Wick's head, and the high table wants him for dead, and John Wick is on the run, and he finds a way to, pull it off in every different scene. And the main villain in this movie is called Zero, which is played by Mark Dacascos. For some of our listeners might remember
your best friend.
Yes, he is definitely a friend of mine, and definitely, him and his, beautiful wife have certainly been liking some of my posts on Twitter, and I certainly appreciate that. For all of our listeners, definitely check out Mark Dacascos' Twitter page for all of your latest updates on John Wick 3, anything else that Mark Dacascos does. But, it's a movie that it definitely makes a lot of sense. If you watch it each time, you get something else from it. You have an adjudicator is sort of the other main villain in the movie. She's played by Asia Kate Dillon.
I hate her. I absolutely hate her.
You want to talk about villains, Yak. She was a real you-know-what. She was definitely, one of those...
Can I use the B word? She was a bitch?
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, glad you're saying it, not I'm saying it, but, certainly she was...
she came... she was one of the flaws of that movie, in my opinion. I know you've watched it 6 times and you have a high opinion about this movie.
I certainly do.
But... somehow she came across as like, what are you doing giving orders?
Let me disagree with you on that. And I don't want to spend a whole show on this movie. I know we have a little bit more time. But very briefly, when you watch it the first time, I would agree with you. And she was the adjudicator in the movie, and her sort of main role is sort of representing the high table, and sort of she feuds mostly with Winston, and she wants to usurp Winston and take him away from his power, as if it leaves off, where John Wick 2, where Winston sort of helped him, and she sort of goes after the characters who helped John Wick when it comes to the Bowery King. That was the other character she went after. She had more of a dialogue with him. And the Bowery King was played by Lawrence Fishburne, who you might be, familiar with in terms of,
Big fan. Big fan.
You want to talk about Samuel L. Jackson? Lawrence Fishburne is up there in terms of that, type of character. He's one of the better movie actors also of our generation. And Angelica Houston is the other character that the adjudicator, sort of interacts with. And she was played as the director. She allows John Wick to go to, get passage and go into Casablanca, and this where he meets up with Halle Berry, Halle Berry, who was Sophia. John Wick helped Sophia's daughter, rescued her, her daughter, and we sort of see them have I would say a good 15 to 20 minutes of dialogue, and that's probably where some of the best action in the movie, came up. There's a lot. I mean, listen, if you're an action fan,
yeah, if you're an action fan who likes dogs getting into a fight, oh boy, you're in for a treat.
And if you like stabbings, if you like guns, and if you like everything else in between, this is a movie for you. And, going back to the adjudicator, yes, she comes across a certain way, but, I really think she makes sense for the movie. And, she's we're going to see more of the adjudicator. All I'm going to say is that if you like John Wick 3, definitely expect John Wick 4. The fight scenes were just through the roof. Literally, they went through the roof.
And by the way, if you can see that Keanu Reeves put in a lot of effort, and I urge all our listeners to check out all the training videos that are out there.
Oh, absolutely. Did you see the training scene video where you had him and Halle Berry firing all those guns in the desert? I mean, that was incredible. I mean,
these guys are not stuntmen. They're shooting for real. They know what they're doing.
Well, Keanu Reeves, you got to remember, he was the Matrix. He's a very versatile actor. You look at Keanu Reeves, and I don't want to give this movie away too much because I know that there's a lot of listeners out there that are waiting for me to talk about John Wick 3. But he certainly, he has his battles, and I really don't want to give this away because I'm chomping at the bits to kind of give this away. All I'm going to say is that there was some body parts involved in this movie, and there was definitely some limbs involved, but the killings that he was involved from the very first scene where he fights Ernest in the library, and then there was actually a scene for you, Yak, that was shot in Bensonhurst along the 86th Street subway line on the D train. In fact, one of our listeners actually had one of those scenes shot in front of his house, believe it or not. I was alerted by one of our listeners who told me that that's what happened where John Wick was riding a horse. So if you see the movie and John Wick is riding a horse, it's certainly one of our listeners' house that he passes on 86th Street, right off 20th Avenue. And
nice.
Not too far from you at all. It's a few subway stops from your house in beautiful Borough Park.
Wow. You know something? The more we're talking about this, the more I realize I have to see it at least a second time. At least a second time.
I can tell you offhand that at least 5 people I've spoken to have said that they went to see John Wick 3 after, I've been talking about it. So certainly the word is getting out, and it's still playing in a lot of movie theaters near you, and it's in a number of them in Manhattan. And I recommend John Wick 3, and, even some of the, the storylines, where Winston says to John Wick, and he goes, do what you do best. And John Wick says, what's that? And Winston says, who runs the Continental, he's the manager of it. And he says, hunt. And then even at the end of the movie where they talk about the word parlay, parlay, parlay. And which is basically a word for peace. But there's even the little storylines in terms of the little words that Wick says, you almost religiously study. So I know you're out of breath talking about it, Yak. So certainly, if the Yak's out of breath, it's time to give a review. So for me, John Wick 3, of course, out of 5 stars, I'm going to give it 5 stars. For me, it's. I have to say though, one thing on it. When I first saw it, I didn't give it 5 stars because the ending, to me, I was a little disappointed with it. I don't want to give the ending away. But all I'll say is that we do see the Bowery King in that ending. I did happen to like Zero, who was played by Mark Dacascos. I liked that he was funny. I liked that you weren't quite sure where he stood in the movie after his fight scene with Wick. But the ending was kind of like left you hanging. But the more you watch it and sort of study that whole Wick in Bowery King scenario at the very end of it, you know that we're going to be seeing a lot of the Bowery King. And you're going to see a lot of, and I think you're going to see a different role for Winston this time. Because don't forget, Winston helped Wick a lot, but I think the way it ends up, at least for the next movie, is that we have a lot of questions that need to be answered. And some of those questions, are they going to be, is Winston with Wick? Or did he do what he did to help Wick in terms of what we see in Wick 4? So we're going to be seeing a lot of the adjudicators. I know you're going to be disappointed, but we are going to see a lot of the adjudicator in Wick 4. We're going to see a lot of Winston. I think Sophia's going to come back somehow. I think there's going to be something with her with that because you were kind of left hanging with her. We're going to see more of the high table because don't forget, he was excommunicated, don't forget. He was persona non grata with. So there's a lot of questions that are going to remain unanswered that we're going to see answered in Wick 4. So, I'm already counting down to John Wick 4. So for you, Yak, out of 5 stars, what did you give John Wick 3?
I'm going to give it a 4.
Okay, that's very fair. So 4.
And if it wasn't for the adjudicator, I would have been a 4.5 and a 5. But I did not enjoy her character at all.
Really? You see, that's where I'm going to disagree with you because if you watch it the first time, the adjudicator you're not going to like as much because she comes across, but her role really made that movie because. Don't forget the scenes where they're fighting in the Continental, where Winston and her are back and forth and she's calling and he hangs up and then we see them sort of toward the end of the movie, and even how she deals with the Bowery King. I thought that was probably the funniest segment of the movie where he's talking about the pigeons and then we see sort of the 7 cuts and then, even her with the director, Angelica Houston. I mean, the adjudicator really... I don't want to say she stole the movie because to me, Mark Dacascos stole the movie objectively.
Oh, yeah. He did.
He showed a lot of variety for that character. He wasn't your typical, Asian karate, villain. He showed a little bit of, comedy. I even like the scene.
Isn't he Hawaiian?
I believe he's Filipino. He's part Filipino, actually. So
he addressed you with aloha. So so for whatever reason I thought he was Hawaiian.
So according to the crack staff, and thanks for the crack staff for pulling this up. Mark Dacascos. Yeah, go ahead. Mark Dacascos is from Hawaii, but he's actually Filipino.
Oh.
So that okay. So if that makes sense for you, that's
thank you, crack staff.
And I also have to say, what also made the movie for me very quickly before we talk about some of the movies that we haven't seen that our listeners should definitely check out as we close the show, I really liked the main theme song of the movie. I don't know if you were familiar with it, but toward the closing credits, the band Bush, who was a big band sort of after Nirvana, and Kurt Cobain and that legacy, they were sort of the band that kind of picked up the mantle of Nirvana. They had a song called Bullet Holes. It was perfectly written for this movie.
I'll check that out.
Definitely check that out. I've actually retweeted it on my Twitter, which is at Thomas Price 2017. So I've actually retweeted some of the videos that the band shot for their song. It's getting a lot of play on a lot of rock radio stations, so definitely check that song. And the main singer is actually a guy named Gavin Rossdale, who's actually friends with Keanu Reeves, which is kind of where they kind of get their relationship from. And one of the directors of the movie actually co-wrote the song with Gavin Rossdale, so it's a great song. It's a very heavy rock song. It's definitely, it's a John Wick type of song, and video has a lot of these scenes in the movie. And Bush, when they played the song live, as they're on tour right now and coming to a city near you, they actually show clips of the movie. So definitely, check out the song Bullet Holes. It's a really good song. If you like heavy rock and you like movie type of songs, so it's definitely that type of song in terms of that. But anything else that you want to say in terms of John Wick 3 before we close into what movies we want to see coming out?
Watch it once, watch it twice, watch it a third time till your nose and eyes and ears bleed.
Well, listen, I don't think your ears are going to bleed or your eyes. I mean, there is some moments you might want to skirmish a little bit and kind of get a little nervous in terms of if you saw it the first time, you probably would. But I'm going to try to see it as many times as I can. I'm going to see it at least once a week between now and whenever the movie ends its run. And some of these lyrics here, I got to put it out there. Thanks to the crack staff, for the bullet holes. It's just it really plays into this movie, and it talks about I'm on the highway, I'm walking across America, sweat stained in my blue suede shoes, race wars, Star Wars, planet wars, mind wars, trying to find ways to get to you, always on the precipice, candy wish, so what you prescribe, because every moment something scared. Yeah, it's such a wild ride, higher than I've ever been, bullet holes, all you leave behind. Now I know I see you cut and dry. I used to wish in symphonies, higher than I've ever been. I mean, folks, if there isn't a movie song that is quintessential to this one in particular, John Wick 3, I don't know what is. So I definitely recommend go see John Wick 3 at a theater near you and go listen to the main song of John Wick 3, which is on the soundtrack for John Wick 3, and that's Bush Bullet Holes. That's cool, very cool. For you, Yak Attack, let's segue into sort of our closing thoughts in terms of some of the movies you're looking forward to seeing at an upcoming theater near you.
All right. So what I'm going to be watching this week, pre-July 4th, on Tuesday, I'll be watching Spider-Man Far Away From Home.
I heard a lot of good things about that. I'm also going to see that. I haven't decided if I'm going to see it at the 12:01 a.m. time or if I'm going to wait during the day Tuesday. But that's a movie that I've seen the posters for, seen the trailer, and it looks like if you're a fan of Spider-Man, you're going to definitely like this one.
Oh, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I used to play hooky all the time in high school, and I used to go to the Brooklyn Public Library and read comic books all the time. And one of my favorite comic books was Spider-Man. So and Tom Holland, who currently plays Spider-Man, is the best Spider-Man ever to have graced the scene, the screens of, and so I can't wait to see what he has coming up in the new Spider-Man movie. So, and it's also a post-Avengers Endgame movie, so there would be some spoiler alerts for those who haven't watched Endgame, so that's why you got to watch Endgame, guys. But it's just that you have a kid who wants to be a high school kid, but he has all these responsibilities because he's got superpowers, and the world needs him. And it's not just Queens that needs him; it's the world that needs him. And he's being burdened with all these. I think they do it very well, from what I can tell. They balance out all this. So
and
yeah,
is it better or similar to Tobey Maguire when he was Spider-Man?
Absolutely not. Tom Holland is a much better Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire.
And tell us why.
Well, it's just that the current Spider-Man, Tom Holland, does a much better job capturing the teenage youth of Spider-Man. Like, he's a superhero. That's always been the calling card of Spider-Man. He has a sense of humor. He's still young. He's quirky. And he's very innocent. And I think Tom Holland is the best. Better than Tobey Maguire, but better than the other guy. I forget who plays Spider-Man before him.
The crack staff is gonna look that up for you, because clearly Yak Attack, you haven't done your, homework on that.
Guilty as charged.
But while we do that, out of 5 stars, what do you expect in this movie before we review it on next month's show?
I have no idea. To rate a movie based on a trailer, I would have to say at least a 3.5 to 4.
Did you see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was played by Jake Johnson?
Loved it.
That's the Spider-Man that I think you're referring to, if I'm not mistaken?
No,
Andrew Garfield is the...
Oh, yeah, Andrew Garfield. Yes. Andrew Garfield was pretty good. Tobey Maguire was pretty good, but none of them hold a candle to Tom Holland.
All right, so we're going to be looking forward to that. And what else are you looking forward to seeing between now and the next couple of weeks?
Lion King. The
Lion Skull that comes out.
Yeah, that's the if and I'm really excited about this because I'm only a fan of live action Disney movies that are, the original ones are animated.
Like Toy Story 4, which we talked about earlier in the show.
No, but I'm saying there's a recent trend of taking animated Disney movies and that we all grew up as kids and then to turn it into like a live action with real life characters and films that are not animated. You know what I mean? There's a recent trend of doing that. Now, I'm only a fan of these kind of movies if it's done right. Now, the Jungle Book that has been made by Jon Favreau was brilliant. Sure. Was great. Now he's the same director that is making Lion King. So he has a great track record of taking classic Disney animated films and bringing it onto the screen in a live action using real animals, real actors, and so he has experience of. And Jungle Book has been an animal-based movie, and he's done a great job of taking animals and making them talk and making them act and and act out the story, and he's done a great job. It paid real homage to the animated film. Now he's doing the same thing with Lion King, so I am and a lot of big names are voicing those animals. Seth Rogen is gonna be Pumbaa, and he's got a real voice for Pumbaa. That's for sure. He's got a voice.
That might be auditioning for a role also in the next Lion King. I see Donald Glover is Simba, Beyonce is Nala, Seth Rogen is Pumbaa. We have Billy Eichner as Timon. We have Keegan-Michael in it. We have Eric Andre as Azizi, Alfie Woodward, John Caney, Florence Kasumba, Amy Sedaris. So you have a lot of big actors in this movie. Let me ask you on The Lion King, did you see Aladdin?
We forgot about Aladdin. Yes, I've seen Aladdin. I'd give it a 3. Was
Aladdin something that our listeners should check out, or you kind of feel it was in the vein of Dark Phoenix? Not in terms of the type of movie, but it's not.
I wouldn't say it was like Dark Phoenix, but I came in with bigger expectations, and they haven't really turned me down. But the expectations were a little better than what I saw.
The expectations weren't met. So The Lion King, you think, will be better than Aladdin?
From what I can see, I think it would. Well, Aladdin was more like a musical, also, and I don't see.
You're not a musical guy.
No, not really.
Like the most musical inclined anyway.
No, I have an ear for music, but not
very quickly here as we sort of come close to the closing the movie. There's a few other movies I want to very briefly talk about and just kind of get a quick yes or no answer on them. If you'd see them or if you have seen them, did you like them? The first one is Yesterday.
I haven't, but I would actually like to see it.
Child's Play.
Nope, I would not want to see it. I haven't seen it. I'm not interested.
The Secret Life of Pets 2.
Seen it, was okay. Not like the first Secret Life of Pets. Secret Life of Pets was amazing. This one was okay. Anna, not. I know this sounds very unprofessional, but I'm not sure what movie you're talking about.
Okay, so we'll give a pass on that because clearly you haven't seen it. Rocket Man, which is based on the life of Elton John.
It's a 2.
Yeah, okay. And how about a movie we really didn't talk about is Godzilla, King of the Monsters. What did you think of that? Have you seen that? Do you want to see that?
I haven't seen it, and A little part of me wants to see it, but not really that. I tell you this, the other Godzilla movie I was really looking forward for it, and it wasn't that great.
Yeah, same here. I actually agree with you on this one. This was a movie that I've been kind of debating about for the past 3 weeks to see, and I haven't seen it. So, I don't know if I should see it, so I'm on the fence. But unfortunately, I'm going to probably not see it at this point.
I would most likely see John Wick 3 times before I ever see this movie.
Look, I'd rather see John Wick 3 10 times over most movies. So, and one more, I gotta ask, and I don't know if you'd seen it. You probably haven't, but it was a big movie. Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Oh yeah, that was a good movie actually.
What did you like about that?
Well, Ryan Reynolds is the pretty much if they cast anyone else other than Ryan Reynolds, it probably would have been a real doozer. But Ryan Reynolds did the Pokemon role some real justice.
And one more movie that I want to talk about before our next show that's coming out. And just for our listeners, The Lion King is out July 19th. And if you're an AMC, which is why you got to get that AMC A-list pass, it's actually out July 18th. But there's one more movie that I want to talk about. Well, 2 more. Crawl is out July 12th. I don't know if you saw the trailer for that. That looks like a movie that we might have to see. And then there's a movie with Dave Bautista, who's a former WWE World Champion, and it's called Stuber. Looks like a cop buddy movie. It's a quick movie. It's an hour and 34 minutes, and it's between him and an Uber driver. And is that a movie you're looking forward to seeing?
Oh yes, because the 2 of my not just favorite actors, these are actors that I've been waiting for a long time to reach mainstream stardom. Like Dave Bautista has done a lot for himself to reach stardom, but Kumail Nanjiani, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right.
You're going to have to pronounce it because I can't.
So Kumail Nanjiani, he is someone that I've been asking myself over and over, how is he not more famous than he is right now? He should be getting a super break. So I'm really hoping that this movie gives him that break.
And Bautista certainly might help him do that. It looks like it's a lot of fun. I've seen the trailer at least 5 times in different theaters, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. And
Dave Bautista has done more already. He's been in the Avengers, as part of the Guardians of the Galaxy crew. Yeah. So he's actually reached some mainstream stardom, but I want him to get even more because he's a great actor. He's a great character. Love him.
And I think this movie very well might do that for him. So we're going to definitely check that out. I know Fast and the Furious is coming out, but that's in August, so we'll leave that for next show. And I see also we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood coming out, which also will leave that for next show.
That's Quentin Tarantino, baby.
Yeah, that's the movie that you were referring to early. Angry Birds movie, too. We have a lot of good movies coming out here in the summer. And for our next show, we're definitely going to talk about, some of these movies. And I know that you're going to be at the movies for many of them. So I want to get your closing thoughts here, and also where can our listeners get in touch with you. So what are your closing thoughts on some of the things you liked so far at the movies, some of the things you're looking forward to seeing, and anything else on the Yak Attack's mind?
Well, guys, we live in a great time. I know people like to say that, where are the movies of the old days? Listen, we got good movies coming out. We got a lot of movies of heart, a lot of movies that are fun to watch for the family. And this is a great time to be a moviegoer. So I hope you stick around with us, and we are going to be your, tour guide in this adventure, this cinematic adventure. And
I like that word, my friend. I think, for a month, every month to month, we're going to be that tour guide, and I'm certainly looking forward to being on that ride with you. And anything else on your mind that the Yak Attack wants to
quick plug. Follow me on Twitter my Twitter handle is @proud_Jewboy. That's right, I am a proud Jew boy. So @proud_Jewboy, and you'll find all my thoughts about movies and other stuff. And I think you'll like what you'd see. And I look forward and following you back as well. If you follow me, it's an automatic guarantee I'll follow you. So follow me @proud_Jewboy.
Well, let me say that I'm proud to follow you on Twitter, my friend. B, you definitely get variety, and that's what's great about the Yak Attack is that he gives you everything. He does not leave anything on the table. He talks about politics. He talks about movies. He talks about comedy. This is somebody that you want to follow. And ladies and gentlemen, this is somebody that's going to lead us at the movies with all of the latest happenings on all of the upcoming movies coming out to a theater near you. And certainly I'm honored, humbled, and privileged to be with you, Mr. Bard, and certainly looking forward to our listeners hearing what you have to say on all of the latest happenings and all of the upcoming movies coming out to a theater near you. And certainly there's a lot to talk about each month, and I'm looking forward to doing that with you. And my thoughts to our listeners that are listening to this is, first of all, thank you very much for listening. I know there's a lot of people who are going to listen to this who listen to us from the Sports Report, and I want to thank everybody for making that New York's #1 sports podcast. And we've had a lot of different, guests, and I want to thank my staff that's been helping me over the past 5 months. We have a great team on the Sports Report. And I also want to thank you, Yak Attack, for coming on the air with us. Previewing at the movie. So I know a lot of our listeners were very happy that you came on. They were, really excited that, your spot was in right toward the end of the show. And also want to thank everybody for listening to Ring Fever, New York's #1 wrestling podcast. We don't do Ring Fever that often, but when we do, you definitely get a lot of hard-hitting analysis on all the latest happenings in professional wrestling and sports entertainment. I want to thank the Professor Brandon Gaines and my brother V. Sean Bryce Show to, join me in that venture. And certainly I'm looking forward to coming back with you here, Yak, next month on our next edition of At the Movies. And for all of our listeners that want to get in touch with me, they can certainly do that at twitter.com/ThomasBryce2017, which is also my Snapchat. And they can also visit the Sports Reports page on SoundCloud. We're at soundcloud.com/The Sports Report 2019. We've had a lot of different guests on the air, and we have a lot more coming, and we're going to have some guests coming up for this show here. So I want to thank everybody for listening. It's lights, camera, action. Thank you very much for listening to the inaugural episode of At the Movies, and we will see you at the movies.